Hello everybody, and welcome to, finally, another episode of the Infamous Universe Q&A. Now today is a very special day, not only because I finally have my own PC in my own room so I can make videos more often, I also have my editing software back, and the one that I bought now has a lot more features than the one I was using before, so hopefully I can make these videos in better quality for you guys. Let me tell you a little bit about what's been going on recently. Before I had my editing software, I was uploading videos kind of randomly directly from my PlayStation. I was doing a lot of live streaming, and those videos are decent. You know, the quality isn't the best, they're not really long or explanatory, there's not really a purpose to them, they're just kind of fun to watch and I wanted to upload them. But now, I can finally make real, good, edited videos like I used to that everybody enjoys on my channel, so that's all good and well. Another really cool thing that happened lately is I got my hands on a brand new TV. It is a 4K Super Ultra HD TV, and the difference between Ultra HD and Super Ultra HD is that with SUHD you get a better color variety than other TVs, so different colors look brighter or more vibrant. There's higher contrast between light and dark. It's kind of technical, I'm not going to explain the whole thing here, but of course I was going to play Infamous on it, and it looks simply gorgeous. It's almost like playing a completely different game. But with all that nonsense out of the way, let's get into the video and take a look at our first question. Alright, so to kick things off, we have a question from Chase. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Chase asks, why do you not like Infamous 2 as much as Infamous 1? I personally think Infamous 2 is better. Here's why. This might sound kind of stupid to you, but it means a lot to me. It was the way that the game made me feel. Infamous 1 just evoked all of these emotions inside of me. You know, the game was dark, it was gritty. A lot of people hated Cole because they didn't understand what he was, they were afraid of him. And I'm not going to get too personal with this, but let's just say that I went through a bit of a phase during high school, and none of the kids wanted to talk to me. They didn't understand what I was doing with my life, why I was doing it. Don't worry, it didn't involve drugs or anything. I've never done drugs in my life. It was more of a religious decision. And people were afraid of me for no reason. People would look at me funny, they would call me weird names behind my back, and of course I played through Infamous when I was in middle school, but that just helped me relate to the character even more. I can't explain this to you. It is so hard to get out through words, but Infamous 1 just made me feel a certain way. I felt connected to all the characters. I felt relatable to Cole. You know, he lost his girlfriend, she got mad at him and held a grudge, and he didn't feel like he was ever good enough. He wasn't good enough for his girlfriend. He wasn't, you know, good enough for the people of the city. No matter how good he did, someone was always trying to get him. Someone was always trying to stab him in the back. Moya was bossing him around, and then she's like, oh yeah, I will bury you, Cole, blah blah blah. It was just great. It was so great. And the conspiracy theories and DARPA and the government and everything, it was awesome. It felt like a full experience to me. And not to mention the plot twists. The plot twists in Infamous 1 were brilliant. I don't want to tell you all of them, primarily because I know some people still haven't played the first two games, mostly the Xbox fans who came over. I made fun of you guys in the last video. I won't pick on you guys anymore, don't worry about it. But the plot twists in the first game were amazing. The plot twist in the second game was just like, oh, like it wasn't surprising. It really wasn't for me. And then Infamous 2 came around and it's like, oh yeah, there's these crocodile mutant monsters and an old man who wants the city to love him, so he's gonna make the monsters behind closed doors and then create a militia that's gonna terrorize the citizens and then claim they're protecting them by defeating the monsters that Bertrand created. It was just like, the fuck is this? What? Are you kidding me? Now don't get me wrong, Infamous 2 improved on a lot of things Infamous 1 had wrong. It improved on the graphics. It improved Cole's controllability. Cole was a lot more lighter in Infamous 2. He felt easier to control. But story-wise, the way the game made me feel, not even close to Infamous 1. Not even close. Our next question comes from Electrical Magic, and he says, I now want to go back and play the first two Infamous games. That's why I didn't spoil any of the plot twists in the previous question. You're welcome. He asks, which would you prefer, Infamous Sequel or Infamous Online? If there was an Infamous Online, during character creation, if they added a power absorption ability, not as a base, because everyone would use it, do you think it should be expensive as fuck DLC, so a few would buy it, or a pre-order bonus, so only the really lucky people could get it? Okay, well, personally, Electrical, I would rather have a sequel, because Infamous Online does not seem like it would be a very good game. And here's why I say that. When I hear the words Infamous Online, which is a term that the community created, I think of DC Universe Online. You know, like the DC Comics MMO RPG game where everybody runs around and, you know, creates their own character. That's what comes to my mind, and I really am not fond of that game. I don't like the way that anything works in the game, really. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't like the graphics. I don't like the combat animations. It might sound very, very nitpicky of me to say that, but I just don't. If Sucker Punch was going to make an online MMO game, I would want it to be Heaven's Hellfire, because obviously that's a reference to Eugene in Second Son. He plays the game in the game, and if they wanted to make an MMO, that would be a much better theme, instead of having Infamous, you know, be the theme for an MMO game. However, if they want to put multiplayer into an Infamous game, kind of like Tomb Raider or Uncharted, I think that might work a little bit better. I actually have some ideas for multiplayer in Infamous myself. I don't know if I posted them on the channel before or not. I'll have to go back and look at my videos, see what I have posted on there. But I would much rather have an Infamous sequel. Or prequel. Hey, make a prequel where you get to play as Kessler, or you go back in time into like medieval Europe, and you get to play as conduits trying to avoid witch hunts and stuff like that, because people would think they're witches, you know. Oh, that girl, she's shooting fire from her hand, she's a witch, you know. That would be a really, really cool thing to see as conduits in the past. I would love that. And to answer your question about the DLC, I don't think that's a very good idea, because if it was expensive, then people would complain about the developers being money-grubbing assholes. If it was a pre-order bonus, then people would complain because the entire community doesn't get to use it, only a few people with blah blah blah, like enough money get to use it. There would be complaints everywhere. Sucker Punch would get a lot of shit for it. They've already gotten a lot of shit for what I think of Second Son and what my friends think of it. I don't think that would be a good idea, to have that as a power at all, because I don't see a gameplay mechanic where it would work in a multiplayer game with other players. I can't picture that. Our next question comes from Hokage King. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, buddy. He says, I know that an HD remix of the first two Infamous games are definitely not coming. How do you know that? How do you know for a fact? Anyway, he also continues, but if they were, what do you think the fans would be surprised about besides better graphics and what would enhance gameplay such as classic games? I'm not sure what exactly you mean. That the grammar in your comment is very confusing to me. But what I think you're trying to ask is that what would the fans want besides better graphics and enhanced gameplay from the classic games? I would want UGC. I would want to make custom missions in Infamous 1. That would be really cool, being able to set up the Reapers and the Dustmen to have a war against each other, and just being able to completely customize my own missions in Infamous 1, that'd be sweet. As for what the fans would want, I don't know. I'm my own fan. The other fans out there have their own thoughts and opinions as well. But I think an HD remix of Infamous would be nice. Think about this. Uncharted got an HD remix. Now sure, Uncharted was popular right off the bat. Infamous was just kind of swept under the rug. When that game came out, everybody was like, oh hey, yeah, it's a new game from the developers of Sly Cooper. It wasn't really popular, you know? It wasn't catching a lot of wind when it first came out. Then Infamous 2 was announced and everybody was getting more and more pumped for it, and Sony put more ad revenue towards the game, and then here comes Second Son, and it sold 1 million copies within the first month that it was out. I think an HD remix would be fine. I wouldn't say it's never going to happen, but I wouldn't say that it's sure to happen. I think Sony needs a little bit of pressure from the fans. If enough of us say we want a remake of these games, Sony would probably do it. I honestly believe they would. He also asks me what I think about the idea of having different melee weapons to add some more depth to melee gameplay. He just has this really long second part of the comment with a lot of things I'm not going to read out loud here in the video. But basically, I think he's referencing something that started in Infamous 2 with the DLC melee weapons. You know, you had Cole's amp, and you had the gold amp, and the caveman club, and the katana, and all those different swords, and they still did the same thing. But what if we had different melee weapons? What if we had like a chain, or you could use your fists, or maybe you had a sword, or just different stuff like that? I don't know if it would work. See, here's the thing with Sucker Punch. They are all about flawless gameplay. They don't want you to have to stop and equip something through a menu. They want you to be able to use everything off the bat right there in the game. Boom, done, easy, quick, fast, blah, 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 blah. They don't want you to have to pause the game, go into a menu, switch what weapon you have, and come back, and they feel like that breaks the flow of gameplay. And I kind of agree with them, not really. I think it depends on the game you're playing. Dying Light, for example, there's a lot of menu shenanigans going on in that game. You have to pause it to craft things, you have to pause the game to equip a weapon from your inventory, and you have to pause it to find a quest and all that stuff. So there's a lot of pausing going on in Dying Light, but it doesn't really break the mood for me. I could see something like Infamous 2 where you press right or left on the D-pad, and then you can equip different weapons or different powers that way. I could see that working for a melee system. But the problem is Sucker Punch is set in their ways. They don't want to change their mind. They like flawless gameplay with no menu interruptions. So do I think that's going to happen? No, it's probably not going to happen. Our next question comes from Jacob Jesse, and he asks, do you think they'll bring Cole's brother into the story? And do you think Sucker Punch will forget Second Son and do an Infamous 2 canon story? Sadly, I don't think they will. Now, before anybody goes in the comments and complains about, well, what do you mean Second Son's canon? Second Son feels like a spin-off, okay? Even though technically it is a canon game in the storyline, it doesn't feel connected to the other games in any way at all. So what he means by an Infamous 2 canon story is he means a game that kind of bounces directly off of the events of Infamous 2 and doesn't have to take place 7 years later and not reference any of the previous games. So number one, I do not think Cole's brother will play an important part. I don't think he's a conduit, but then again, we don't know that. He possibly could be. We don't know his name, we don't know where he lives, where he's from, his ethnicity, how old he is, anything like that. If they did decide to bring Cole's brother into the story, they could make it work. They could make it work. I don't know how they do it, but there is definitely a way for them to do it. If he was a conduit and the game allowed us to explore Cole's past through his brother's eyes, that might be interesting. I would like that, but I can't say for sure if they will or they won't. And finally, do I think Sucker Punch will forget Second Son and do a canon story to Infamous 2? No, I don't, because Second Son sold 1 million copies in just 9 days. 9 days, let that sink in. Second Son was hyped up, it had a lot of trailers, a lot of media coverage, Sony spent money on the advertising for it, Sucker Punch got behind the scenes videos. You know, this game was anticipated by a lot of people, and it sold very, very well. Sucker Punch is going to look at that and say, hey, this game sold well, people must like it. Well, that's not always the case. I mean, people buy Call of Duty every year, and it's the best-selling franchise in history of video games, at least modern video games anyway. But that doesn't mean everybody likes it. I mean, Second Son, yeah, sold 1 million copies in 9 days because it was hyped up. That doesn't mean people like it more than the other games. It doesn't make it better than the other games, but from a developer standpoint and from Sony's standpoint, they're a business and their goal is to make money. From their standpoint, yeah, they're going to think that's good and they're going to make more of it, whether people like it or not. So I don't think they're going to do an Infamous 2 canon story. They're going to stick with Second Son and Delson or whatever they do, but I think they're going to kind of stick with this now that they know it's going to make them money and it's going to sell well until this strategy stops working. So whether that's in the near future or the far future, we'll find out. Okay everybody, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with all your friends. Man, it feels so good to be back. It just feels great to be making videos again, and I'm excited to see your comments for the next video and what you have to ask me for episode 4. So stay tuned. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. That's still up. Nobody's become a patron yet, but hopefully we'll change that in the near future. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.